Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're here this morning with Bill Montgomery, who's running for mayor of the city of Wilmington. For the next hour, we'll have a chance to talk to Bill, get to know him a little bit better, and hear about his plans to make Wilmington a safer and stronger city. Bill, who are you? Could you share a little bit about who you are?
Well, Larry, I'm first and foremost a Wilmingtonian, born and raised. Was born at 14th and Washington, live at 14th and West Street, so some might say I haven't gotten too far in life, but I'm a Wilmingtonian first and foremost. I love this city and I want to move this city forward, so that's really why I'm out here running for mayor at this point.
Bill, could you tell us a little bit about your education background?
Sure. I'm a public school person here. I went to McCain High School, as many in the city did. I'm a graduate of the University of Delaware, have my bachelor's in sociology from the university, and then worked on a master's and completed my master's in public policy, master's in public administration, with a focus on local government management. So that's the sum total of my educational background, I guess.
It's my understanding that you have a special fellowship. Could you explain what the Toll Fellowship is?
Yeah, when I worked for the state of Delaware, part of my career, I worked for the legislature, and I was a member of the national board of the Council of State Governments, and they have a leadership academy every summer down in Lexington called the Toll Fellowship, and they pick about 25 folks from around the country and put them through a boot camp basically on leadership issues, how to really help run government better. So I was fortunate enough to be chosen as a Toll Fellow and completed that program.
Could you talk to us a little bit about your experience, how you began as a social worker and moving through your career?
Yeah, right out of college, I knew I wanted to work with people. I've been oriented that way my whole life. I wasn't sure quite what that meant, but I got hired by a very wonderful woman, Dorothy Street, the late
Street.
Dorothy Street. Yeah,
Yes.
that's County Councilman Jay Street's mother. And she hired me my first job right out of college as a social worker in what was then called economic services. So I did eligibility determinations for folks for food stamps, for AFDC. I did home visits in some of the toughest neighborhoods in the city to try and help get people basic financial assistance.
And who were some of the other people that you've worked with over the years?
Well,
Wilmingtonians, Delawareans that
Yeah.
mentored you?
I've been fortunate, Larry, in my career to have a whole host of African American mentors, and I feel like I need to give something back to that community because of that. But folks like Jim Baker, obviously, everyone knows I worked for him, but Charles Debnam gave me my start in child welfare. I got to work with child abuse issues thanks to Charlie Debnam. Edward Loper Sr. was my art teacher. I called him my guru also, but my art teacher for over a dozen years, the dean of Delaware painters who just passed away. I had folks like Gwendolyn Broadwater. Some may not know Gwen, but she
Could you
was
tell
a
us a little
supervisor.
bit about her?
Yeah, she was a supervisor in the economic services area, and she had a great impact on my early career in social work. And her daughter's still running around here in the city. I see Shane occasionally. But
I know Shane.
Yeah, Gwen Broadwater was a great influence on me, and she used to call me her second son, which made me feel pretty good. So I've been really fortunate. I have had excellent people guiding me and helping me, and they went across the racial line to do that. So I feel like I have a debt.
Bill, it seems like to me you have the strong education background to be mayor. You have a bachelor's in sociology, you have a master's in public administration, you also have plenty of government experience. Could you talk a little bit about your government experience?
Sure. As I mentioned briefly, I was also working in the Child Protective Services area. I helped get programs in the schools in the 1980s that dealt with child sexual abuse, which at the time was a very taboo topic. It's still a tough topic today for all of us to deal with, but at the time it was tough to get it in the schools. But I took theatrical programs even took Spider-Man into the schools, whatever it would take to get the kids' attention to talk about good touch, bad touch,
Right.
things happening in their lives.
Right.
And that was the first attempt by the state of Delaware to put programs like that in the schools to really awaken folks to the problem. Beyond that, I worked for City Council for 10 years. I was there.
What was your title?
It's now called Chief of Staff. At that point, it was called Legislative Staff Director. But I ran the small council staff for Jim Baker when he came in as council president back in 1985. So I did that for 10 years, got to know the workings of the government a lot better. And then after that, I worked for the legislature for almost 7 years and was the head of Legislative Council, which is the research and administrative arm, and did a whole lot of work on the state level before coming back to work for the city another 11 years before I left my job recently to run for mayor.
So in summation, you've actually worked on the legislative side of government, you've worked on the administrative side of government, and you've also delivered human services to city residents. So you have a broad base of experience in government, and you have been successful, I believe, in every role you've taken on.
I think so. Larry, in every position that I've had, I've not been a guy that worries about the job description. I come into a position and I say, what needs to be done here? And I fill vacuums. I identify problems, I solve problems, and I try and leave every position I've had in a lot better shape than when I inherited it.
So if you're elected mayor, you're a very experienced candidate, and you'll be able to hit the ground running. And if you're elected mayor, you have the background, you have the experience, you'll be able to hit the ground running. Wilmington will be in a better position because it's not an OJT situation. You actually know city government.
Yeah, it really isn't an on-the-job training situation for me. I do know city government. I'm not saying I have all the answers, Larry. Don't take it the wrong way. But I believe I know the challenges facing the city. I also know the strengths of this city, and there are many, and they start with the people of this city. So I think I have a good balanced view of what needs to be fixed, but also what's working well and needs to be maintained, needs to be strengthened.
Okay. Well, when we come back, we'll hear more about Bill's plans to make Wilmington safer.
Bill supports small businesses.
He gets it.
Bill's been building strong neighborhoods
for more than 35 years.
Bill Montgomery has been a very strong advocate for the arts and for preserving Wilmington's rich cultural heritage.
Bill Montgomery
will be a mayor for all the people.
Hi, I'm Larry Smith, and I'd like to welcome you back to our panel. I would like to welcome you to our panel. Our panel members are Alfred Lance. The other panel person is Paul, Emergency Physician's Assistant. Thank you for joining us. This session we're going to talk about safe communities. Bill, let's begin with your plan to improve public safety. You've been championing the Safe Communities program. It sounds like a somewhat people raise questions about its doability in the city of Wilmington. Could you explain? Everyone wants to know, what is a safe community? What are you talking about here? Could you give us some idea?
Yeah, Larry, if I could, let me step back a bit and say that my plan for public safety in the city has short and long-term goals and long-term effects. On the short term, I want to see more cops on the street. I think there are ways to do that. I want to improve response times. I advocated in Dover for some funding to help with the technology side of government. That's not, or policing, that's not an exciting side perhaps, But what I was able to do in Dover was advocate for some money, which did get funded, by the way. And the police will be able to have better communication now between when this is implemented shortly, better computer communication with the cars out in the street, so information goes back and forth quicker on crimes in progress, suspects, all that. Also putting GPS units in the cars so that the folks back at the dispatch center down at 4th and Walnut will know where every car in the city is at any given time, so that they can dispatch the closest vehicle. When someone calls for a problem at 8th and Pine, the closest vehicle will get attached, not just the radio car for that district. So some of those things are not too exciting, but they're important because you're trying to get police to the scene to help people quicker, and that's first and foremost. But yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the short and the long-term strategy, how the Safe Street works? As a long-term?
Some of the things I just talked about are more quick fixes to try and improve response time. Longer term, I have embraced a concept called safe communities, and it's championed by Professor Kennedy at the John Jay School up in New York. It is working in over 70 cities in this country, and it has a couple elements. The first and foremost is it locks up, like any good program, locks up the worst folks in this in the crime game. You don't want to mess around when it comes to crime. If there are folks committing violent crime in the city and putting the city residents at risk, you got to lock them up. So that's an ongoing issue, and that's happening. So we arrest people really well. What we don't do is change lives really well. I'm about changing lives. The Safe Communities model can change attitudes of people who are involved in crime. I'm talking about the B level. The worst of the worst, we've already said, lock them up, let's get them off to Smyrna, let's get them over to the federal prison in South Jersey, let's get them out of our hair here in the city. But the folks that I'll call the B team, you got a lot of folks out there on the streets dealing drugs, doing whatever. For whatever reason they're doing it, they don't all want to be there. I honestly believe that. I think you have an opportunity to change their lives. So what Safe Communities does is brings in their family members, the folks that are influential in their lives. It might be an uncle, a cousin, a clergy member, a neighborhood leader. You bring those people in, you sit down with the people, you sit down with their influentials, you sit down with the police, the ATF, FBI, everybody. First and foremost, you let them know, we know what you're doing, we're not going to accept it anymore. However, if you will change the way you're doing it, we will help you. We'll help you get job training. We'll help you get a Medicaid card because you may need, for instance, substance abuse treatment or mental health treatment. You may need a Social Security card to get a job. All those things. There are a whole lot of needs that folks out there have.
What about
they
job
take a
training?
Shortcut. And job training, absolutely. The good thing, Larry, is that the governor has taken on this project, has endorsed this project. The different cabinets, secretaries have endorsed it. We went down to High Point, North Carolina. I took the police chief, some of the other folks, and I took some state officials, including Henry Smith, who's the Deputy Director of Health and Social Services. We went down to High Point and saw how they run the program down there. They are changing lives down there. They have reduced violent crime in that city. They've taken certain areas of the city and really reduced the crime, and they've also taken out open-air drug markets. Now, they've been doing it for 8 to 10 years. It's a long-term fix. There are no quick fixes here in crime in Wilmington if you don't change lives. Now, one of my opponents has talked about they're going to change everything in 60 days. Well, I have to have a little bit of fear. If you think you're going to come in, change the whole crime scene in Wilmington in 60 days, that's a little bit scary. That same person said they're not going to be hugging thugs. I'm not talking about hugging thugs. I'm talking about changing lives. We don't want an administration that moves this city back to the bad old days. I don't think anybody in the city wants to see Wilmington become something like the Frank Rizzo model from Philadelphia from several decades ago.
Right.
We've got to move forward as a city. We got to be more progressive, and we have to help people change their lives. If you don't change lives, crime will continue. We can lock people up till the cows come home, but we need to think of those folks not as thugs, not as problems. Think of them as people. Let's have a more humane approach toward these folks. Let's reason with them. Let's show them some respect. Respect is a big issue out on the streets. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
But let's show some basic respect. The issue with safe communities, folks, is that safe communities is a moral voice of the whole community. It's not just the mayor, the police chief, but it's the community. It's all of us together saying we're not going to tolerate this behavior anymore, but we're here to help you. We want to change your life. That's the way we make this city go forward in the future.
You're right, Bill. If I can summarize what you're saying as far as the B group, what I understand you're saying is that we need to do what we can do to give young men and young women a second chance, a second opportunity to get it right. And what you're talking about is a humanistic, a caring approach to help people turn their lives around, to offer them the opportunities that they need, such as job training, such as assistance in getting public benefits if they need them, and any other way that you can help them turn their lives around so they can become productive.
Absolutely. We're talking, it shouldn't be that novel a concept, but we're talking about helping the least among us. Let's get down to it. That's what we're talking about.
Good. And they deserve a chance to change.
Absolutely.
Okay. Our next guest would be Paula Paul. Paula Paul is a emergency physician's assistant. Paula, could you talk to us a little bit about your role and why you're supporting Bill and why you're supporting the safe communities?
Sure, I'd love to. First of all, I'm a physician assistant. I work in our local trauma center. I think as a team we have some really awesome emergency physicians and trauma teams that are able to take these gunshot wounds that we see almost seems on a daily basis and bring those people back to life, get them out of the hospital. And I know concerns that they have are that they'll release a person and sometime down the road, there they are back again with a second gunshot situation. Sometimes they're resuscitated, sometimes they're not.
That must be heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, and a lot of these are very, excuse me, I do get a little emotional. They're young men, and from where I sit, I don't work directly in trauma, but I do see a lot of these individuals for other follow-up items, and what I see in many cases in these young men particularly are almost a pride in the number of times they've been shot. You take a medical history and, I've been shot 3 times. Well, trauma surgeons don't look for repeat business, believe me. They like to see a patient once and not see them again. But 1, 2 times they're resuscitated, and the 3rd time maybe they're not. And it's very sad. Last week I had a young man and his father came in for a visit, and we were talking, and I took medical history. He was a 17-year-old, really handsome, charming kid.
17-year-old victim?
He was a 17-year. Part of his medical history was he had been shot when he was 16, and you could tell his dad was, deeply disturbed about that, and so we had a little conversation on, what have you changed? We don't want to see you here again for that type of thing. What have you changed anything in your life? Are you still hanging with the same friends? And unfortunately, he's still hanging with his same friends. Here's a kid who has the potential. He was very charming, and I'm sure he had a parole officer now, and you could just see the direction that he was heading was not going to be good. It was breaking his father's heart. How can we intervene and send these bright kids in a better direction?
Right. That's pretty dramatic, and it's pretty scary, especially when you talk about these kids are coming in here more than once, several times, and with gunshot wounds, and they're still continuing that pattern, that behavior, and that out there in the streets. But it also emphasizes very well what Mr. Montgomery is talking about putting your arms around these young men and women, try to help them look for other options, changes in their lives, such as job training, such as education, such as making sure they get public benefits, and et cetera. That's the whole idea of safe streets, safe communities, and what Mr. Montgomery is talking about. Our next guest is Mr. Alfred Lance. Mr. Lance, could you give us a little bit of your background and talk to us about your understanding of how safe streets will work?
Absolutely. Thank you, Larry, and hello, Bill. As just one voice in the community, I think what excites me the most about safe communities, I too was a sociology major at the University of Delaware and got my bachelor's degrees in sociology. So I'm very concerned about looking around in our community and seeing patterns of behavior and why things happen the way they do. And the great thing about safe communities, it's not a empty platitude. It's not tough talk. It's a research-based approach. It's a strategy filled with action items and action plans about what we can do to address this very serious issue of crime. It's so serious that we need to research it. We can't just go out there thinking that we're tough and
lock them up, throw away the key.
Lock them up, throw away the key.
That's not the best idea at all.
Well, one, it's an oversimplified approach that just does not. It communicates that you haven't taken the time to really investigate and see all the various aspects that create the situation that we are here in Wilmington. So I'm very excited about taking an intelligent, researched, and reasoned approach that is looking to get the worst among us off the streets, but also is looking at that human element. And I live on the west side, and I look into certain communities that are that are around me, and I scratch my head sometimes, and I say, well, what can we do? What can we do to break the cycle? And here we are taking young people, not a whole lot of them, I don't think, and letting them know that there are other options available to them, that their life is valuable. Maybe that's something that they've never heard before, and that there are other leaders, there are other models that you can emulate in your world to get the sort of self-esteem and pride that they're looking for. Your gunshot record doesn't need to be
Bill?
that.
Alfred, I think what you and Paul are talking about is right on point. There's another element of safe communities too that I think helps you get at that. It's beyond just calling in folks and confronting them with their issues. It's also bringing the community and the police together, because until we build a stronger bond between the community and the police, we've got that issue of distrust and mistrust and misunderstanding between them. There are police who think that there are folks in the community, if it's a bad community with a lot of violence and a lot of crime, they think everybody's in on it. We know that's not true. We know that there are people in those communities who want a safer, stronger area to live in. They want their kids to be safe. They want to sit on their front porch. And by the same token, I think there's some folks in the community that think, oh, the cops are out to get me, that kind of thing. We need to break that down. That's another thing I like about safe communities, because it does bring the community and the police together for some tough talk. They talk about issues of race, they talk about issues of class, talk about issues of disproportionate treatment of people, and get those issues out on the table, talk through them. When you build a bond between the community and the police, you can have true community policing. You can have a situation where there's a shooting or something, some horrible thing happens, and people will step forward and help because you've built up some trust. So I really think that there's a way to to get to the young guys that Paul is talking about, and to the larger community issue that you're talking about through this model as well. The good news, Larry, I think on that is that this is not something that has a big price tag. Safe communities has been introduced in communities around, in cities large and small, somewhat rural, more urban, all kinds of cities. It cuts across geography and demographics, but it's been introduced in a way that does not cost cities a lot of money. It's pretty
affordable.
much cost neutral. It's using the resources you already have more effectively and focusing it, but there's no big price tag. The price tag, if there is one, is that it does require people to come out of their homes, sit down, talk with the police. It requires some community involvement, that's all. It's not going to break the bank here in Wilmington, but it can have great rewards for the people of the city.
Let me ask you a question. How will you adapt this model to the city of Wilmington?
Well, it's off to a slow start. It's gotten introduced due to the work I did with others to basically sell the police on the idea, and I think they've embraced it, but you need a mayor who will push it. It's not a flash in the pan situation. If you're going to go down that route and adopt this program, you've got to be consistent and you've got to keep it going. You've got to have the dialogue with the community, not just once or twice, but an ongoing situation. You've got to move those discussions around the city. You've got to involve everybody. So getting it started, it has been started. It was started under my watch before I left City Hall. But you've got to have a champion in there in the mayor's office who will say, this is a priority, we are going to do it, and we are going to change lives.
And this is why I think, really I'm supporting Bill, because I think he's an individual that can bring those community resources together. He's a team builder and really draw on the strong programs that we have around the community that can come in and help with the effort.
It sounds like a two-part strategy. Number one, you got to deal with the immediate problems of crime, reducing the immediate problems, attacking that. Two, it's a long-term strategy in the sense of making sure that you get the community involved. You make sure that you work on community-police relations so that the communities feel comfortable with our police department and the police department feels comfortable with the community. And as you work, and then the most important and very important part of this is that Bill says that it's not an expensive program. You're utilizing and using the resources we already have.
Yeah.
We already have.
The rewards you get too, you reduce recidivism. You prevent crime from happening because you're working with people, moving them away from the life. You're reducing recidivism. You're not sending people back to Smyrna again and again and again, and you're reducing calls for service. And when you do that, when the calls for service go down, every officer on the force has more time. Every man and woman on the force will have more time to get out of the car, walk the street, talk to neighbors. So it has a building effect, and it does not, the interesting thing, it does not displace crime. If you do it and it's successful, say out on the hilltop near Alfred's house, what they've really found, it doesn't displace. It actually has an effect where it actually grows. It has a positive effect beyond even where you start using it.
So it moves from that area where the focus is out, crime reduces all around it. It spreads, it grows.
And again, Alfred talked about the research. There was a research done recently where they looked at 15 different cities, and that's what they found. It's not displacing crime. We're not talking about, let's just push the crime out to another neighborhood or out to the county.
Right.
We haven't accomplished anything if we do that.
Right. It's a reduction in crime,
Exactly.
and it's an improvement in the quality of life in our neighborhoods.
And it's an improvement in the lives of people who need a change. They need to be turned on to a more positive way to live.
And that's what we want in the communities. We love our neighborhood. We're in Wilmington because we want to be, not because we have to be. We're not trapped and trying to get out. I love Cool Spring, I love the West Side, and I love Wilmington. And each of us should be able, each city resident, no matter where you live, should have the opportunity to say the same thing and love where they live, because they're free of the nuisance crimes, they're free of the violent crime, and we can actually enjoy each other as neighbors as opposed to being suspicious.
I think one of the things you mentioned is displacement. A lot of times you focus on an area, you attack the problem of crime, but it moves somewhere else. And what I hear you saying is that this strategy it actually dissipates it.
It's been proven to do that, and I think it can do it here.
Okay. This time we'd like to take another break, and we'll be back in a few seconds.
Bill supports small businesses.
He gets it. Bill's been building strong neighborhoods
For more than 35 years.
Bill Montgomery's been a very strong advocate for the arts and for preserving Wilmington's rich cultural heritage.
Bill Montgomery.
Will be a mayor for all the people.
Bill supports small businesses.
He gets it. Bill's been building strong neighborhoods
For more than 35 years.
Bill Montgomery has been a very strong advocate for the arts and for preserving Wilmington's rich cultural heritage.
Bill Montgomery.
Will be a mayor for all the people.
Bill, your violent crime reduction plan is called Safe Communities. Tell us about your commitment to the communities in Wilmington.
Yeah, I think we do need to focus. There are a whole lot more things going on in this city than simply public safety, and I think we've addressed that to a great degree. But we need a stronger city, and by that I mean a city where there are jobs for people. We've done a good job of attracting jobs. I don't think we've done a good enough job of really training folks to take those jobs, training Wilmingtonians to be ready for the jobs of the future. So I want a stronger city where we really work on that. I want a more responsive city where city services are more readily available to people. And I want a city that's more vibrant. I want a city where we like to get out and have some fun in the city. Let's not forget that people are supposed to have fun in life. The pursuit of happiness, remember that? Everybody in the city should have the ability to enjoy life to the fullest. So the rest of my platform, if you will, I'm not just mired in just the public safety issue. It's an important issue, and it's first and foremost, I think everyone agrees. But you got to get beyond that and do some other things that get people excited about living in the city again. And you've got to help people have jobs.
And you have some guests here, Bill. Let me introduce them.
Yeah.
Gemma Buckley, Alfred Lance, and Dan Walsh. Could you take a few minutes and introduce yourself, Ms. Buckley?
Sure. I'm Gemma Buckley. My husband Jack and I are and have been booksellers in downtown Wilmington. We are downtown Wilmington's local independent booksellers for 35 years. We started with a small shop, the Paper Book Gallery, on the 900 block of Orange Street. Then in 1983, we moved to our first location on 9th Street, 9th and Orange. And then we moved again in 94 to our second 9th Street bookshop, which was just a couple doors down closer to Shipley. We even had a small shop, the Scrivener, in the Grand Opera House for a brief period. This past winter, we came very, very close to announcing that we were going out of business. We were very saddened by this. We love what we do. We love the fact that we are a downtown Wilmington business, that we serve such a diverse and rich customer base. But things economically were looking bad, had been looking bad. But thanks to Bill Montgomery, he found out what our situation was. We came to within 2 weeks of announcing we were going out of business. When Bill heard about it, he said, "Give me a couple of days." And Bill made it happen.
How did he make it happen?
Bill made it happen because Bill cares. Bill gets it. He and his wife, Lynn, are longtime customers of ours. They've been with us for 35 years. Bill knows that to have a vibrant city, to have viable retail, you need to support what's there.
Can I tell you how I made it
Yeah,
happen?
yeah, that'd be good.
It's real basic. You have to know there's a problem. And Gemma, because I'm a customer there, I found, wow, you're closing. That cut me to the quick. We don't need 9th Street Bookshop closing, one of our best retailers. But what I did, I got on the phone, I talked to a developer, and I said, we've got this great business downtown, we're about to lose it. And the developer said, oh my God, I agree. And you know what they said, I've got a designer. I said, I've got properties downtown, but so do other people. I said, I don't care if they come to my property, someone else's property. What I will do is loan them the services of my designer. They have a person who lays out retail space.
Okay.
So they loaned a designer, and they said, we'll design 2, 3, 4 stores. You can come to our property, you can go to someone else's property. We don't care, but we care enough to keep them there. So we were able to link the designer up with Jack and Gemma. They were able to then look at properties all around the downtown. They ended up going with a property that this developer owns, or this business owner owns. But they could have gone anywhere, and it was because that person also stepped up and said, what's important is keeping a key business downtown, not where they go or who they pay rent to. So my part was small. I facilitated, and that's what I do. My whole career I've spent putting the right people together in a room together to talk about issues or whatever. So I had a small part in it. Gemma, thank you for the kudos, but my role was simply to marry Jack and Gemma up with somebody who could help, and they were able to work it out. And I couldn't be more thrilled, because I don't want to lose the one and only bookstore in downtown Wilmington, especially an independent bookstore.
Then, Gemma, you said Bill and his wife always are in your bookstore shopping, 9th Street Bookstore? Bookshop on the corner, 8th and
We're
Market?
now at 8th and Market, yes.
Yes.
And we love being downtown, and we love the people that we get to serve. And thanks to Bill. Bill, you really did facilitate it, because we had hit a wall, and it took Bill. And Bill didn't do it for political reasons. He cares. He lives it. Bill, unlike most of the candidates, doesn't just talk about Wilmington's economic development. He lives it. He gets out there. He supports the businesses. I can't say that for most of his
In other
opponents.
words, he shops in downtown Wilmington.
Yes.
He eats in downtown Wilmington.
He patronizes the arts in downtown Wilmington. Bill gets it.
Okay.
If you want a vibrant city, you've got to support what's there. We small businesses are the face of the city. We are what give it character, make it distinctive.
Right.
And the more you foster what's there, and there isn't a whole lot right now, but if you foster what's there, it will encourage other businesses, so that we will give a unique image, a special image to our city.
But it's also very important to see the lead person in our city patronizing Wilmington businesses. That's very, very important. And that's how you attract other people. Say, okay, he's here.
Bill lives it. He gets it.
He gets it. Bill gets it.
Yes, he does.
Alfred, talk to us a little bit about your community, and tell us your involvement with your community and why you're supporting Bill Montgomery for mayor.
Absolutely. In the Cool Spring neighborhood, we have a very vibrant community. I think it was just named Wilmington's #1 community last year due to our active, engaged citizenry. We come together for activities and social events. One of the things I work on in my neighborhood association is actually expanding the fold and bringing people together through large and small groups. And these are the sort of things that make a vibrant community. Neighbors knowing each other. You want to talk about a crime strategy. I think the nosy neighbor crime strategy is probably one of the best, one of the best in history. And building those bonds and making sure that we all know each other. But when we have those bonds, due to those community activities and events, when something happens, we all come together. We all come together and we respond, just like we responded when we had the opportunity to put together the West Side Revitalization Plan. Here you had people from the West Side all over coming together saying, well, what do we want to see in our community? We recognize that government has a role in that, but we also recognize that we have a role in that, and there are certain things that we can do to support government and making our community as vibrant and as beautiful as it can be.
Alfred, can I comment on that? One of the things, Cool Spring, first and foremost, Cool Spring Tilton has a lot of cool people in it, that we know.
Yes, we do.
They got a very vibrant Facebook page. They're always all talking to each other. They're communicating. They're using technology. I raise that for a point. One of the things I want to do as mayor is to create what I'm calling a community leaders council. I'd like all the community leaders in the city to be meeting with me as mayor, at least on a quarterly basis, sharing their concerns and sharing not just with the mayor, but also sharing with each other. There are best practices, if you will. That's kind of a canned phrase these days, but there are things that people are doing in Cool Spring, they're doing in Northeast, they're doing in Little Italy. There are folks doing really innovative things on their own. Government can help a little, and I'm not saying it shouldn't, but some of the greatest things come out of the grassroots. The West Side Grows plan, the projects of the blueprint communities in the East Side and Northeast. Plans like that, the West Center City plan, neighbors are planning on their own here to some extent and saying, here's what we want, and then pushing the government to help out. But I want to get groups like the folks from Cool Spring and Alfred and some of his cohorts together with folks from other parts of the city, sit down, talk about what they're doing, from fundraising to community building to working on the crime issue, whatever. Let's have those people all talk together and share their best practices and their ideas, and we will have a stronger community. So, but I applaud the stuff going on in Cool Spring, and I love reading the Facebook posts.
Well, Bill, we applaud you because with your desire to strike a new course and set a new tone for the leadership at the top. We have to have a government that's going to be responsive. So once we've come together and say, hey, we as a community would like to do this, these are the assets that we see and these are the challenges that we see, and we like to do something about that, we need to be able to go somewhere to say, all right, let's work together, or how can we work together to make this happen?
Thank you, Alfred. Our next guest is Dan Walsh. Dan, could you talk to us a little bit about why you're supporting Bill and your community too?
Sure, thank you. I was, for the past 3 years, Midtown Brandywine's president, and it was kind of my first foray into community organizations about 7 years ago when I first joined. Started out as crime committee chairman, and then worked on a number of property issues, and then took over as president. And one of the neatest things, I think, when I first met Bill at a block party those several years ago was when I had a problem, when I had a question, Bill never necessarily told me what to do. He never said, well, this would probably be most expedient. What he did was he actually helped me learn on my own. If there was some way or somebody he could point me toward, he let me give that person a call. He let me actually hold the city accountable for what the city's out there to do to advocate for its constituents. I'm supporting Bill because we're a great city at a crossroads. We deserve a mayor who can advocate for its community. We deserve a mayor who knows and is not going through on-the-job training. We need to attract jobs to this great city, and we need to address crime. Bill's the only candidate, in my mind, who's qualified to do that.
I have one last question of Gemma, Alfred, and Dan. In that order we'll go. Why do you support Bill Montgomery?
I support Bill because, as Dan said, he has the experience to lead this city in a new and better direction. He's already proven himself as a very capable leader. As far as, I just want to interject this. We talk about safety, cities in our city. From our experience as business owners, we know how critical it is for people to feel safe, to feel secure. That's why they'll come out and support what's here. When Bill was chief of staff over a year ago, the police department initiated this patrol, this downtown mall patrol, which has been very effective. Again, this was utilizing officers on the street, not going by in patrol cars, but walking the street, getting to know the businesses and the people who are on the street, at the street level. We can personally attest to that effectiveness. Now, Bill has come in with this high-point plan model for that. We wholeheartedly support that because we know the value of this. And this takes time. It takes time for the officers to develop the relationships, the community rapport, the knowledge of where to focus your attention. We can attest to this personally. Our store was burglarized. Our old location was burglarized 4 times within 4 weeks. The officers knew our building, and they finally apprehended the thief who had been stealing the copper piping out of our building. That comes with experience, and under Bill's proposal, they will continue that on the street, continuous patrol that is so essential in fostering a safe, secure city.
Thank you. Alfred?
Larry, I'm supporting Bill because he brings a high level of professionalism to city government. In everyday life, if we're looking for a banker or a financial advisor to give us investment advice, or if we're looking for an engineer or even a plumber, we're looking for the most well-trained, the most highly skilled, and the most experienced to tackle the issues that we're handling. And government is no different, and hands down, Bill is that person. With his education and his experience in government, and not government broadly, but city government, Bill is by far the most experienced and the only one that can really handle that. And it doesn't mean that being educated and experienced means that you know everything. It means that he knows that working together with people is the best way to go.
Dan?
Our mayor needs to be visible. Bill is everywhere all the time.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Bill about why he should be our next mayor.
Bill supports small businesses.
He gets it. Bill's been building strong neighborhoods
For more than 35 years.
Bill Montgomery's been a very strong advocate for the arts and for preserving Wilmington's rich cultural heritage.
Bill Montgomery.
Will be a mayor for all the people.
Hi, we're back. And I'd just like to say this, why I am supporting Bill Montgomery. I'm supporting Bill Montgomery because he's honest, he is a leader, he cares about people, and Bill and I are strong proponents of good government. Government that's responsive, government that is caring, and government that is honest. These are the reasons why I'm supporting Bill. Bill, could you tell us why you?
Larry, I do believe that I have a set of skills and abilities. I have the education and the experience, some of the things that we've talked about here today. I think I'm a fairly well-rounded individual, and I think I'm prepared for this job. But beyond that, there's some things that you need that I'm not just talking about a resume here. I think I bring some passion to this position. I think I also bring compassion to this position. You have to have compassion for the folks in the city. I also think I bring just a basic caring about the city that really needs to be there. And another C I'll throw at you, courage. You have to have the courage of your convictions. You have to have the courage to say no to people sometime. You have to have the courage to stand up against special interest and look out for the interests of the entire city. I want to be the mayor for all of the city, not just for a segment here, a segment there. We need to bring this city together. I have a positive vision for this city, and my positive vision has us all living, working, learning, recreating, having fun together, and across neighborhood lines, racial lines, sexual orientation, all that. I'm tired of all the divisions. We need to be working together as one in this city. I'm tired of the negativity. There's enough negativity. We can all be critics of this is wrong and that's wrong, but we've got to get beyond that and have a joint vision for the city, a positive vision. Larry, I don't think it's too much for us to even say, to cite the biblical reference and talk about a gleaming city on the hill. If we don't aim high, we have no hope. We have to aim high. So I think we can have our own gleaming city here in Wilmington. It's not just the buildings downtown. It's all of us working together.
Very good. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to close by saying this. We'll be right back. Well, we have more time. Bill, I'd just like to ask you this question. Could you talk us about the 311 constituent services and what you plan to do as far as responsive government?
Sure, yeah. I think it goes to some of the things that Dan and Alfred were talking about. What I'd like to create here in the city, and I'm prepared to move forward with, is what's called a 311 call center, where a citizen dials just one number to make a complaint, to get some information, whatever. What's not good is having people have to dial one department, get referred to another, go into voicemail, all that kind of stuff. I want to cut that out completely, bring all the customer service people in the city who deal in finance, public works, whatever, put them all in one unit, cross-train them, make them better employees also, and have a citizen be able to call or email or use their cell phone, whatever, and get a response quickly when there's a problem in the city.
Well, today we talked to Bill Montgomery, who's running for mayor. Please remember to vote on September 11th, which is a Tuesday. We'd also like to thank our guests, Paula Paul, Alfred Lance, and Dan Walsh, for joining us today. Bill, we wish you the best. We're going to support you and do our best to get you elected.
Thank you to my friends for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
Bill supports small businesses.
He gets it. Bill's been building strong neighborhoods
For more than 35 years.
Bill Montgomery's been a very strong advocate for the arts and for preserving Wilmington's rich cultural heritage.
Bill Montgomery
Will be a mayor for all the people.
Bill supports small businesses.
He gets it. Bill's been building strong neighborhoods
For more than 35 years.
Bill Montgomery's been a very strong advocate for the arts and for preserving Wilmington's rich cultural heritage.
Bill Montgomery
Will be a mayor for all the people.